Like every year for a roller coaster enthusiast, 2020 has had its ups and downs, but this year those highs and lows haven't all been on an Intamin or Vekoma track. It's been a tough and emotionally draining year for everyone due to the global pandemic, so now more than ever is a time to think positively about the good times that were possible this year and think about the good times that lay ahead in the future. Hello everyone. Well, this year's gone really quick, hasn't it? There's strange really when you think that for 2-3 months of it we were sat at home not really able to do anything, but the year has gone quick. So a little intro on this video, what you can expect from watching this, because normally on an end of season video it's a 2-3 minute edit to music where I just put all of our best clips from the year in together, no context to the video, it's just like have some music, have some footage. And having looked back on those videos I thought, no, we need to do something a bit different this time. So of course, because of the tiered restrictions, it is just me, but we have had lots of good moments on camera with Mike, with Mark, with Chris, with Gemma. Beck has helped me out a lot over lockdown. It's been a good year for footage, even though it's been a hard year to do YouTube. It's been a really hard year to do YouTube at points, but this video is going to be about the positive moments of 2020. Everyone's had a tough year this year. I don't want to dwell on that now. Let's look ahead, let's look back firstly at the good moments, and then let's look ahead to what will hopefully be a good 2021. Starting with Phantasialand then, that was a trip that me, Chris and Jimmy did back in mid-January. I couldn't tell you the date off the top of my head. Kind of booked last minute because I'd been the year before with Jimmy and Mark and it had been absolutely freezing, -7, riding Taran and Black Mamba and Chiapas in -7 wasn't really a great idea, but the flights were a tenner at the time, so we did that in 2019, and then the closer it got to January 2020, it was like, yeah, let's go Phantasialand again. Unfortunately, Mark couldn't get it off work, but Chris could, Jimmy could, so he said, yeah, let's do it. Nice and cheap transport from the airport to the hotel, so we decided against getting a car hire. That made the trip a lot cheaper as well, which made it a bit more viable to do rather than paying out silly money on car hire deposits and all such stuff, especially as the hotel that we stayed in was like a 10-15 minute walk from Phantasialand. And on that subject of transport and hotels and stuff, something I'm going to look to do before the parks reopen is go through some of the places that we have been in the past and sort of give my tips and advice and just some little bits of info on planning road trips, planning trips to places like Phantasialand, just for if maybe you have been or haven't been and maybe want to do things differently, do things better, or just do them for the first time. There's a lot of tips that I like to share, certain websites that are good for, say, booking, transfers and stuff like that. So that's something that we're going to be doing early next year in terms of new videos, especially while we're waiting for the parks to open. I think it'll be quite helpful because at some point we are going to be able to do parks in the EU, in America and places like that again. So hopefully those videos will be helpful. Please let me know in the comments where you would like me to see feature on those. There is a Cedar Point one already on the channel, but I think I might redo that at some point because since I did that one, I've actually found better ways to get there. So probably going to look at doing that one again. So anyway, on to Phantasialand. This time it was actually 7 degrees. So it was a hell of a lot warmer, and it was actually warmer than being in Crewe in England. There was no ice on the ground, it wasn't too bad riding the coasters. Phantasialand was really quiet. We managed to catch it on a Thursday and a Friday rather than a Saturday and a Sunday, which made a massive difference. So rather than queuing 2 hours for Taran, we were walking straight on Taran. We were lucky enough to be able to do the morning ERT as well on the second day we were there, so a big thanks to the marketing team at Phantasialand for that. We got an hour of Taran and Rake, which were both completely walk-on for the duration of that ERT. I think Jimmy did 17 laps on Taran or something daft like that because you could just stay in your seat and just keep doing it over and over and over and over again. And even once it had opened, there was still no queue for it, so they were just letting guests stay on. So me and Chris went and got pictures and video. Jimmy just went, nah, I'm not interested in that. I am re-riding this. And he stayed on it for the whole time. I don't blame him, to be honest, even though his face was absolutely like covered in frostbite by the end of it, because once you've done that many times on it, it does start to feel a little bit cold. But the best thing about that trip was actually some of the daftness in the hotel with Chris and Jimmy, and it was just fun. It was just a good laugh, nice cheap trip, a good laugh, a good way to start the year. We were excited for Pleasure Beach opening weekend as well. That was dominated a lot of the conversation when we were away from Phantasialand. So we'll move on to Pleasure Beach now. And it wouldn't be a look back at Pleasure Beach's opening weekend without a look back at Mike on the log flume.
Quite lightly there, to be honest. Here we go. Let's hope there's a big splash. Oh! Oh! No way. That's the best ever. Hey, they're stuck. They're stuck.
For a more in-depth look at the Blackpool Pleasure Beach opening weekend and the season as a whole, I'll put a card in the top of the screen for a little video I did back in November which detailed the whole season at Blackpool Pleasure Beach from opening weekend right through to closing weekend. Lots of good memories in there, even if it was a short season. Looking forward to getting back to Pleasure Beach next year. Looking forward to getting on a big one again once it's had more track work done. I can tell you for sure that that new section is going to be a lot nicer to ride than it has been for the last couple of years. Looking forward to that, definitely. So I'm not going to dwell on Pleasure Beach too much because there is a whole video about the season at Pleasure Beach. So moving on from there was probably my favourite trip of the year, which was Siam Park in Tenerife. Now this was a place that I'd looked at going for years really. I'm a fan of water parks, but it always got put to the side for theme parks, and it was something that even I look back on the trip to Florida with Becca where I think we probably could have done more water parks, but it was my fault that we didn't because I was like, oh, I'm not really bothered about water parks, blah, blah, blah. Looking back, I probably would have been. So we went to Typhoon Lagoon on the last day, and I remember it was probably one of the best days of that trip, and it was a very, very good trip. But that was one of the best days, and I think that probably spent 2 hours in the wave pool alone. And Becca's looking at me from the other side of the room, sort of nodding her head going, yes, we were in that wave pool for far too long. But it was doing that sort of got me interested in water parks again. And shortly after that, we went to Blackpool Sandcastle. And then it was sort of like, oh, Siam Park, yeah, that's a great place. I need to go there at some point. And as we've started to do more and more on YouTube, I've been thinking we need to go there at some point, do a vlog, just go there and enjoy it and do everything about it. So finally took the decision at the end of 2019 to go in 2020 because I'd always put it off mainly because of the flight time. I thought, I can't be bothered to sit on a plane for 4 hours to go to Spain. But then I thought, yeah, let's just do it. Let's go and get some summer sun in spring. So we went over, or even in winter you could say, winter sun. Went over in, I think it was early March we went over, and as it happened, around that time that we went, all the stuff with coronavirus was starting to come into the news a lot more. And for that whole week leading up to that trip, me and Mike were sat there going, we don't know if we're going to be able to do this trip. Tenerife has got coronavirus, and they're saying, yeah, you can come, but some areas of it have been closed off. Now, on reflection, I think if we'd have known what we know now about coronavirus, we probably wouldn't have gone. But everyone was sort of... I remember being in the airport that morning when we flew, and I drove with Chris and Gemma to the airport. We got there and we were waiting for Mike. We were waiting for Stu to turn up. And people were taking the piss out of coronavirus. And you think about it now and you think it's madness. But people were walking around with silly like face masks on. Like not actual face masks, just silly costumes dressed up as like fake nurses, fake doctors. And when you think about it now, it's absolute madness. Because 2 weeks later we were in full lockdown. You look at it and there was still football matches going on. There was horse racing going on. The world was carrying on as normal, even though we were getting more and more warnings from the press that this thing is getting really bad. So I think, without turning it political, maybe the country should have been locked down a lot sooner. But yeah, it was a great trip. And rather than talking about it, I've done a little edit of the highlights of that trip.
Where's the lifeguard? Oh! Why do I always do these things? Right, how do we get out? Backflip. Wait, okay.
Something that sticks in my mind and that was in that little edit then, I don't know if you picked up on it because GoPro audio is not great on the GoPro 7. It's the first slide that me and Mike did. And we got to the bottom into the pool after we'd been on the slide. And we sat there in this big dinghy thing, and I says to Mike, how are we getting out of this thing? And Mike says, backflip. And even now when I think about it, it just cracked me up, that did, because you think he says backflip, and then he ends up doing 2 backflips anyway, but just not on that particular slide. But it just always makes me laugh thinking about doing some of those slides because they're just so different to what we're used to in a water park, say, locally, because obviously they build quite a lot at Siam Park. It gets rated as the world's best water park every single year for the last 5 or 6 years at least. And it is just so good. But it's such a big place. I was saying last night to Becca when I was talking about Siam Park that we were there for a full day, like throughout the opening hours we were there. And when we got there, it said at the entrance about ride rotation. Now we all said, yeah, we better keep a note of that. Well, we did keep a note of it, but the place is so big that we just lost track of time. Before we knew it, the rides had rotated and we'd missed 4 or 5 of the slides that we were hoping to get on. Luckily, we got on most of the main stuff, but there is a couple that I've seen POVs of since, and I've been like, damn, I wish we'd been on that. Hopefully, all being well, we'll be going next year. We'll see how that goes with restrictions and stuff. I do think travel will be allowed eventually next year. It's just a case of when. So I think we'll be going. Luckily, we've got the flights on that we can move them. Hopefully, Ryanair will stick with that, but you know what they're like. But yeah, if you've never been to Siam Park and you like water parks, I really do recommend it. But give yourself enough time. Like I say, when we were there, everything was walk on. But when I say walk on, you think about the Revolution at Blackpool Pleasure Beach. That amount of steps up to every slide every time. When it's walk on, that's quite a lot of walking, especially as the steps were quite big. I think when we got to the top of Power Tower, or the Tower of Power, whatever it's called, I get the name of that thing wrong every time. Me and Mike went up to do that one and left everyone at the bottom with the cameras and stuff after they'd all been on. When me and Mike got to the top, because there was no one else in the queue, we got to the top and the lifeguard was like, come on then lads, and we were like, hey, hold on mate, we need a minute. We're just, need oxygen here because it's that high to get to the top. Could do with an elevator really. It was just so far to walk up to the top, and then I'm getting to the top looking at it going, I really don't want to go on this, I am terrified. And something that sticks with me with that is the area where you sort of the loading area where you get into this, you've got to get down and lie down, and I'm looking at this space going, I am not going to fit there, and I do not want to slip and fall off this massive slide. And I'm also thinking, I hope that guy's going to catch me if I do slip. And it just sticks with me every time where he's just as we go over the top, and you're thinking, I don't know how tall it is, but it is a huge. It's bigger than some of the coasters at Pleasure Beach, and you're thinking, this slide is massive. I hope I've got all the safety instructions right. And it's just as you're going over the top, he's going, do this, do that, do this, and you're like, mate, I'm going at about 40 miles per hour here. I can't hear you anymore, and I'm going through this shark tank, and next thing I'm in the water. I'm like, right, I'm glad that's over. I'm not doing that again. But I can't wait to see Mark do it next year, because he will cry when we get to the top. I'm certain of it. He's been all confident in messages to me and Mike. Mark, if you're watching, I'm sure you'll be like, yeah, I'll be fine. You will brick it. I'm certain of it, and I'm hoping that we can film it, because he will be terrified up there. So moving on from Siam Park, as you could probably tell, I really, really enjoyed it there. Like I say, totally recommend it. Yes, the 4 hours on the plane is annoying, but go to sleep, chill out, you'll be fine. Be there nice and quickly. Oh, and just something to mention, Estrella Dam is really cheap there as well. So we move on. After Siam Park, it was Blackpool the following week, and then it was lockdown. Not going to talk about lockdown, just going to move straight on to the next thing. So we get to June. Things are announced that the parks are reopening. Everyone's saying 4th of July. Merlin were very keen to say 4th of July very early on. Thankfully, 4th of July was the day. We went to Blackpool Pleasure Beach. Of course we went to Blackpool Pleasure Beach. It was traditional opening day, even if it was in July and not February. It was raining, it was windy, it was cold. There was questions over whether rides would be open due to the weather. Pleasure Beach pulled it out of the bag. They managed it excellently, and that was probably one of the best post-lockdown days in a park, because it was just so nice to be back there, so nice to get back on the big one again, and it was just like, yes, I can finally come to Pleasure Beach again. So we did quite a lot of trips to Pleasure Beach after that, but we didn't do a vlog on each occasion, because we thought rather than just doing a Blackpool Pleasure Beach vlog every week and going, we've been on Big One, we've been on Icon, we've been on Big Dipper, we thought, let's do something different. So we did a couple of park footage videos, one at Alton Towers, and then a park footage meets vlog video at Thorpe Park. They're all included in the vlog playlist, which I will link again in the top of the screen. But more importantly, over the summer, we did something a bit different, and something that I'd like to repeat for the channel going forward. We went to a lot of different parks in this country, and what it did show is that you don't always have to go to all the best parks in the world to make good videos. We went to places like Breen Leisure Park, we went to Brighton Pier, we went to Southend Adventure Island, we went to all these smaller parks down south, and actually we went to Ocean Beach up in South Shields. We went to all these different parks, and one of the things that we spoke about a lot during lockdown was we want to support the industry when the parks reopen. Now, there is a couple of ways that you can do that. There's buying merchandise, there's buying season passes, there's making videos to try and promote your favourite parks, but also there's physically going to these parks, putting money in their tills by buying wristbands, by buying merchandise, buying food on the park. And that is what we tried to do a lot. And of course, there is a personal benefit to it, because our coaster counts all went up as a result. And Mark will no doubt not deny it, that he went and got carried away by doing all sorts of daft little credits throughout the summer just to make sure he'd got 300 coasters on his coaster count by the end of the year. To be fair, there was plenty of shameless credits that me and Mike got as well, because we also did a road trip without Mark, because Mark was stuck in work. He wasn't able to get the time off, whereas me and Mike were able to go and do Clarence Pier, Brighton Pier, Hayling Island. Hayling Island, now I've mentioned it, let's see that log flume of doom again. I don't think it likes our weight.
Funnily enough.
Do you think we could get the RAC to come and give us a push?
Come and give us a tow.
We need a tugboat.
I may have just had another. I wouldn't have gone on it if I looked at the water though. It is dragging, isn't it?
Is this why they call it the flume of doom? Because you get stuck? Oh! We are actually scraping the bottom.
Oh yeah.
Should have brought a rowing boat for this.
Paddles. This is going to take forever.
I actually don't think we're going to make it to Brighton.
Do you know how long we've been on this already? Nearly 3 minutes. I'm worried about getting splinters.
Oh, thank God I can see the light.
We're picking up some speed.
Because I'm pushing the thing.
Right, let go, let it scrape. Let's see how fast we actually move. We are coming to a stop, I think. This is why we're rowing. Should have brought your paddles. We may have stopped. Watch your hands at this point, mate. Don't be sticking them out of the boat.
That's what I'm worried about.
Log flume ride up head has just switched in. Come on, you big Mary. Is that supposed to happen?
No.
Don't worry, everything's under control. And this is where we get sunburnt.
Oh, I can see the car.
You see the car? Your eyesight's better than mine. We might be getting an evac. At least we know the anti-rollbacks work.
Yeah.
If not, at least we'll get wet one way.
Yeah.
Backwards drop.
Hi gents.
Hello.
Slight technical issue as you can see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ask you to pop out the boat for me
Yeah.
so I can clear the problem.
Yeah, no worries.
And then we'll get going again, alright?
Yeah, after you, Mike.
So there we have it, the Flume of Doom. That was interesting, to say the least. I think it was the only ride evac that we had this year. Certainly an entertaining one. It was absolutely baking that day. It was really, really warm. We were really looking forward to the splash off the log flume, but of course it didn't happen because, well, we got off on the lift hill, and the ride up did say to us that once it was back up and running that we could get back on it again, but there was a big queue for it, and even though we could have got straight back on it, we thought, if it's our fault that this is broke because we've got too much weight in this boat, which is quite possibly why it didn't get up that lift hill, we thought, let's not cause the ride-ups any trouble with this ride by breaking it again. Let's move on to the next park and let all the families and other thrill seekers who were in the queue for that log flume on what was 32 degrees that day, let them get on the log flume, let them get the soak in. Let's not break it again, because if we'd have got on it again and it had done the same thing again, I think not only would it have been quite embarrassing for me and Mike, but I also think that we probably would have annoyed a lot of people, because it would have been, well, you were the problem in the first place and you're the problem again now. So yeah, we decided to move on, and that was when we went to Brighton from there, which was excellent. Even if there were seagulls landing in the log flume trough as the log flume was going round, trying to get in the way. And of course, I'm sure you know, if you've watched the channel, Mike is a big Eric Cantona fan. And of course, there was an Eric Cantona and seagulls reference. And for the next hours after that log flume, he was talking about, well, Eric must be about. So, oh dear. Never change, Mike, if you're watching. Never change. Please, don't ever change. It just wouldn't be the same. So moving on from those, we had some good trips to water parks. We had the Sandcastle in Blackpool, of course. That was to have a look at their COVID safe measures. They were a little bit later reopening than the theme parks because, for whatever reason, they weren't allowed to open at the same time as the theme parks were, even though I think it had been scientifically proven that chlorine and being in water actually helped people with dealing with COVID. So I was quite surprised, and I think the water parks were quite surprised that they weren't able to open. But when they did, we were able to go along to the Sandcastle, to Waterworld in Stoke, and then later on, me and Becca went to the Wave in Coventry for the first ever time. If you've never been there, I totally recommend it, by the way. Nice, clean, family-friendly, modern water park, but also lots of good rides for thrill seekers as well. You've got the drop slide, which was pretty terrifying. But I'm glad I did it. I'm really glad I did it. But there's so many good things there, whether you're a thrill seeker or you're going as a family. There's just so much to do there. There's parking nearby. There's places to get food. Like I say, it's clean. You've got nice lockers set up. I just think that if you're a family looking for something to do when we're out of these restrictions and out of lockdown and you're local to the Wave in Coventry, give it a go. It was really, really good. Moving on from there was the last European trip of the year, which was the third one, and that was to Poland. Now, originally we'd got Energylandia booked for July, but of course that was not possible, but luckily we were able to move it. So we took the vouchers from the July flights, and we were just sort of holding off, and we were going to use them for this year, 2021. But in the end, we decided we can fly to Poland. There's no restrictions. There's no quarantine. The parks are open. The flights are cheap. Let's do it. Let's go to Energylandia. Finally go and get to Energylandia. And also we were able to do Legendia too. Both parks were like a ghost town. It really did surprise me how quiet both parks were, because the actual areas that they're in were not quiet. There was plenty of people on the roads, plenty of people in the shops, plenty of people on the paths. But generally speaking, the parks were really quiet, and a lot of people have said that is generally what they're like all the time. Now, Legendia was a real surprise, because we thought it would be a one and done kind of place. We'd go and do Let Coaster, we'd do the other coasters and be like, let's go and chill. I think we spent 2 hours re-riding Let Coaster because it was walk on. We didn't have to walk around each time. They let us stay on. They let us mount the camera to the ride as well, because they've got little GoPro thingies on the train that you can put the GoPros in. So we were doing lots of different POVs on it to try and figure out which one would be the best. Mark had just got a GoPro 9, so he was testing that out. I was sticking with the GoPro 7. And I think in the end we had a ridiculous amount of POVs from one ride that we've only actually used one of them. But not because the others were bad, it was just you don't put uploading them all. But that was a nice day there. It was a good day. The park was better than expected, and you can tell that park is set up for the future to be busy. It's got like a really nice entrance area. It actually gave me Toverland vibes. I'd just like to do it maybe on a nicer day, but I think, even though I think it's a really nice park and a really good park, I wouldn't go back unless they built something else, because I think on a second visit I'd maybe be like, did I really need to come back? Energylandia was an interesting one, because a lot of people had said before I went, just generally speaking in conversation, that it was a soulless park. It didn't have a nice feel about it. The layout is terrible. The baggage system's terrible. And with all that in mind, to be honest, I went with a bit of a low expectations. Now, something that was true out of all that was that the layout of the park is seriously confusing. And if you have watched the vlog, you will see how many times me and Mark got lost. Because in what would normally be an easy park to navigate, because you go, oh, there's a big tall coaster at the back of the park, let's just head straight to the back. It's really not that easy. You've got to go under an underpass, you've got to walk around stuff, and a lot of parks, like, for example, if you go to Fort Park, you know it's a nice, easy route to Stealth. If you go to the Pleasure Beach, you know it's a nice, clear route to the big one at the back of the park. If you go to Towers, even though it's a trek, you know that Nemesis is at the back of the park with air. Energylandia's layout was just so weird and so dodgy. I just think that it reminded me of Roller Coaster Tycoon a little bit when I was a teenager, when you used to be playing a scenario and you'd be like, you'd not really have any consideration to where you were going to put paths. You just kind of went, that ride can go there, and you put it there, and then you went, oh, where am I going to put the queue? Or more importantly, where I'm going to put the exit. So the original sort of rides at Energylandia are a lot like that, but when you get to the newer attractions, you can tell that the whole area has been thought about a lot more. Because when you do get to Zadra, or when you get to Hyperion, you can see that they've thought more about the layout of those areas, but it's more the earlier rides that you sort of go, well, how am I getting to it? How am I getting away from it? And probably the worst thing about that park is the fact that they've got a spinning coaster with over-the-head restraints. I mean, why? Why does that need to happen? Hopefully that is not a thing anywhere else. And then after that, we got into the Halloween season. Now, I'm not going to talk too much about Halloween season, because, again, I have done a Halloween wrap-up video, which I will link in the top of the screen if you're interested in that one. And then after that, the whole year was kind of brought to an abrupt end because we got the tiered restrictions, which meant that going to Pleasure Beach was almost impossible because Blackpool was in Tier 3. And I think Tier 3, it pretty much killed Pleasure Beach's season. And I am so glad they didn't persevere with winter weekends. I don't think they'd have been able to anyway with the restrictions, but I think if we hadn't have had that mini lockdown, I think it was in November or start of December, whenever it was, I'm really not sure that it would have been a great idea for Pleasure Beach to be able to be open if we'd have been stuck in the tiered restrictions, because from the pictures I saw of Tier 3, the late night riding events were really quiet compared to what you would see normally, even compared to the summer after we'd just come out of lockdown. The park was really quiet during the Scottish half-term week, which is just unseen in previous years. It's normally really busy. Then, of course, you had the English half-term week, which was just as quiet. So I'm just glad that winter weekends weren't actually able to happen, because I just fear how quiet Pleasure Beach might have actually been on those weeks. I really do. So on reflection, 2020 has been a hard year. It's been a hard year to run a YouTube channel, especially one that covers theme parks. But your support has been amazing on all of the videos that we have done. We've now got this schedule where we do Thursday and Sunday uploads, and I think that not putting the pressure on myself and Mike and Mark and Becca and everyone else to go, we need to do a video, we need to do this, we need to do that, I think it's helped us make the channel better. I think the content is better. I think it's improved. It's helped me improve my editing, and I'm still trying to learn some new stuff. I always feel like you need to learn new stuff to keep it more interesting, to keep the things a little bit different than they've been. I don't like the videos to be a carbon copy every year. I like them to get different as time goes on. And on that subject, actually, Halloween videos next year are going to be totally different. I think the format of them has been really good the last couple of years, but it got to the point where we were filming them towards the end of the Halloween season this year, and I was thinking I'd like to do these a little bit differently now. So they'll be different. I'm sure there'll still be Mark getting terrified in them, but I'm going to be looking to change those up. Looking at park videos going forward, there's going to be a bit of a less is more approach with vlogs. There's not going to be a Blackpool Pleasure Beach vlog every week, which is something that we have done in the past. I think there maybe will be plenty of them over the course of the year, but I think they'll be a bit more spaced out, and I think they'll be different. It won't always be about, oh, this is all the big rides. Sometimes it will be like the one we did in September, where we will do stuff like the Ghost Train, River Caves, Alice, Wallace and Gromit, Flying Machines, the Log Flume, just different stuff that just adds a bit of variety. Just hoping to bring a bit more variety to the channel alongside what we have done for the last couple of years. If there's anything you would like to see, please let us know in the comments section below, because that's always helpful. Your feedback is always really helpful. Helps me to decide what to keep doing, really. As an example, the history videos that we've been doing, they will be carrying on even when the parks reopen. There's so much history out there in the amusement industry that could cover that on a channel itself throughout the whole year. So there'll be plenty of those as the time goes on. Not just Pleasure Beach either. There'll be stuff from Towers, Fort, all over the UK, maybe even further. There's also going to be some review collaboration videos which are very much in the works. They were planned to sort of be spread out over the year, but quite a few of those might come in January now. And I don't think the parks will open. Well, I don't think Pleasure Beach will open in February, so I think February will also be a case of looking at doing more of the history kind of stuff. But yeah, that is all from me for now. Wishing you all a happy new year. Thank you again for your support in 2020. It's been most appreciated in what has been a very hard year to do YouTube. But yeah, many thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next Pleasure Beach Experience video next year.